going to say they made a bad decision. They should have got Shedeur Sanders.
Jaxson Dart. Folks, I see Zach Wilson with a Jets.
Jaxson Dart's the truth, though. You turn that tape on or you turn the TV on, you watch him, and it's like, oh, wow, he jumps out. He jumps out to you, though. The swagger, the way he plays with heart. Yeah. He can run, he can throw. He's always trying to make a play.
Yeah, talk about it.
No, he's going to be special, though. He's going to be special.
Last night was about the New York Giants. They have found their franchise quarterback.
When you think about the NFL draft, you often picture a quarterback who's been the face of the program for years, a household name in college football. But for Jaxson Dart, the path to the 2025 NFL draft wasn't paved with clear signs of stardom. It was filled with ups and downs, doubts, and one very big decision to transfer that changed everything. Fast forward to today, and Dart is one of the most talked about quarterbacks in the 2025 draft class. But what many people aren't telling you about Jaxson Dart is how he got here. It wasn't a smooth ride, and it wasn't guaranteed. In fact, a lot of people didn't see this coming. So let's take a step back and talk about how Dart went from a backup at USC to a first-round prospect with the New York Giants. After his first season at USC, Dart's career was hit with a curveball. Caleb Williams, a highly touted quarterback from Oklahoma, transferred to USC, pushing Dart further down the depth chart. Now imagine being in Dart's shoes. You're coming off a promising first season, but suddenly the starting job slips through your fingers as a top-tier QB rolls into town. Most quarterbacks would have stuck around, fought it out, and hoped for the best. And that's honorable. But Dart made a bold decision. He entered the transfer portal. His destination was Ole Miss, coached by Lane Kiffin. But why Ole Miss? Well, Kiffin is known for running a quarterback-friendly system. And if Dart wanted to prove he could thrive, this was the place to do it. Kiffin's offense focuses on giving quarterbacks the opportunity to stretch the field, make quick reads, and use their athleticism to make plays, and Dart's dual threat ability was just what Ole Miss needed. It wasn't just about moving to another program. It was about starting fresh. Dart saw this as an opportunity to prove he could be more than a backup, more than a guy who had to sit behind someone else. He wanted to show the world what he could do if given a chance to lead. And that's exactly what Jaxson Dart did when he arrived at Ole Miss. From the jump, he quickly secured the starting job and wasted no time making his mark on the program. In his first season with the Rebels, he threw for over 2,900 yards, 20 touchdowns, and showed off that dangerous rushing ability with over 600 rushing yards. Not only did he put up impressive stats, but he also led the Rebels to key victories over tough opponents like Arkansas, Georgia, and LSU. Now let's talk about one of those key games at Arkansas. Dart went off, leading Ole Miss to a 51-31 win, tossing 389 yards and 4 touchdowns, and adding 50 rushing yards for good measure. That game didn't just boost his stock. It showed everyone that Dart was a playmaker who could rise to the occasion when his team needed him. As Dart's first season at Ole Miss unfolded, something became clear. He was improving every game. His decision-making sharpened, his passing stats climbed, and his understanding of the offense grew. Dart wasn't just putting up numbers, he was getting better, showing he had the talent to go from a backup at USC to one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the SEC. One of the things that really sets Dart apart is his dual threat ability. He's not just a passer, he's a weapon with both his arm and his legs. His ability to move in the pocket, make plays with his legs, and keep defenses guessing is a huge part of why he's so exciting. In his second season at Ole Miss, Dart's stats took another leap. He threw for over 3,300 yards, 23 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions. But that wasn't the whole story. He also added 495 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground, proving he could do it all. In today's NFL, having a quarterback who could make plays both in the air and on the ground is invaluable. And Dart was showing he had both aspects of the game covered. Now let's break it down. Dart's arm strength is top tier. He can sling it deep with accuracy, stretching the field on any given play. His running ability is a threat every time he steps outside the pocket, picking up key first downs with his legs. He's the complete package, and in an offense designed to give quarterbacks big windows to throw into and lots of space to operate, Dart flourished. But what many people don't realize is that Dart's success wasn't just about the numbers. Sure, he can sling it and run, but his leadership was just as vital. He wasn't just a quarterback, he was the heartbeat of the offense. His ability to inspire and motivate his teammates is something that didn't go unnoticed. Dart wasn't just focused on his own development. He helped recruit key transfers to Ole Miss, actively reaching out to potential teammates and telling them about his vision for the program. His ability to connect with others and get them on board with his goals was an underrated part of his success. By his third season, Dart had elevated Ole Miss program to new heights. They weren't just a team that competed, they were a force. Ole Miss made it to the Peach Bowl, where Dart played his heart out against one of the nation's top defenses. And despite the losses, Dart's leadership never wavered. He kept improving, kept grinding, and kept showing everyone why he was considered one of the top quarterbacks in the nation. As his college career came to a close, Dart has solidified himself as not just a college standout, but a future NFL quarterback. His growth on the field and his ability to inspire his teammates helped set him up for the next big step. That was the NFL draft. Lane Kiffin's system was all about creating big passing windows and simplifying reads, which is great for a quarterback like Dart, but doesn't exactly prepare him for the more complex playbooks he'd face in the NFL. Now we come to the part of the story where the New York Giants made a bold move that would change everything for Dart. As the 2025 NFL draft approached, everyone expected the Giants to go with a safer pick, someone who could step in and start immediately. After all, quarterback instability had been a huge issue for the Giants over the years, and they needed someone who could stabilize the position. But instead, they decided to make a gamble on Dart. They saw something in him, something that other teams may have overlooked. The Giants were sitting at the 25th overall pick, a spot where Dart wasn't expected to go. In fact, many had projected him for the second or third round, but the Giants saw an opportunity to trade up, packaging several draft picks to move into the first round to select Dart. That was a decision that shocked a lot of people, but inside the Giants front office, it made sense. They've been watching Dart's growth, and they saw his leadership, his resilience, and his arm talent as key assets that can turn him into something special. What did the Giants see in Dart? Well, they were betting on traits. It wasn't just about stats or college performances. It was about intangibles. They saw a quarterback who could rise to the occasion, handle adversity, and get the job done when the pressure was on. And honestly, that's exactly what the Giants needed. For years, the Giants had been stuck in quarterback limbo. They had Russell Wilson, sure, but at his age, they knew he wasn't the long-term solution. Jameis Winston, another experienced quarterback they signed, wasn't necessarily the future either. So when the Giants took a chance on Dart, they weren't just looking for a guy to fill a roster spot. They were looking for a future franchise quarterback. They saw Josh Allen's rise in Buffalo, and they thought, if Allen can do it with raw potential, why can't Dart? Allen, of course, had his issues coming out of college, but with the right system and development, turned him into one of the NFL's best. The Giants were hoping they could do the same with Dart. They weren't going to rush him. They let him develop slowly, learn from the veterans on the roster, and eventually unleash his immense potential. But not everyone agreed with the Giants' decision. Critics argue that Dart wasn't as polished as other quarterbacks in the draft. He wasn't quite on the level of top prospects like Shedeur Sanders, a more traditional IQ-based quarterback who could read defenses and make quick decisions. Dart, on the other hand, was seen as a risk. His mechanics were still rough around the edges. His decision-making needed refining, and there was always the question of whether his college success would translate to the NFL. Despite the doubts, the Giants were all in on Dart. They weren't looking for immediate returns. They were looking at the bigger picture. They knew Dart would need more time to adjust to the NFL speed and to learn the playbook. That was far more complex than anything he dealt with at Ole Miss. But the upside, that's what sold him. They had a plan for Dart. It wasn't about throwing him into the fire right away. The plan was to let him learn the ropes behind a veteran like Wilson, who could help guide them as he adjusted to the pro game. Winston was also there to offer insight, giving Dart the space he needed to develop without the pressure of starting in year one. And that's exactly the kind of environment Dart needed. One where he could work on his mechanics, improve his decision-making, and get better at reading defenses. His time in Ole Miss's simple system had helped him get comfortable in a spread-out offense. But the NFL was a whole different animal. He'd need to make full field progressions, react quicker, and get more precise with his throws. The good news? Dart had the work ethic and the leadership to take on that challenge. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Why Dart over Shedeur Sanders? Sanders had everything people love in a quarterback: elite football IQ, great processing speed, and the ability to make precise throws under pressure. But Dart, well, he was more of a wild card. He had a big arm, he could run the ball, and he played with that competitive edge that teams often covet in quarterbacks. But could he really develop into a franchise guy? That was the big question. In the end, it came down to upside. Sanders had his strengths, but people weren't sure if his lack of physical traits would hold him back in the NFL. Dart, on the other hand, had all the raw tools: a cannon for an arm, the ability to make plays with his legs, and the leadership qualities to inspire his team. So the Giants were willing to bet on those traits, even though there were more questions about his consistency and his ability to handle the complexities of the NFL game. When the 2025 NFL season kicked off, Dart started as a backup quarterback to Russell Wilson. But after the Giants stumbled to an 0-3 start, head coach Brian Daboll had no choice but to turn to Dart. It was a tough situation, throwing a rookie QB into the fire when things were already falling apart. But Dart wasn't going to back down. In Week 4 against the Los Angeles Chargers, Dart stepped in for his first career start. And while the team's record wasn't great, Dart showed flashes of brilliance. He finished the game 13-20 for 111 yards and added a rushing touchdown. It wasn't the most dazzling debut, but it was a gritty performance that gave fans hope. Then Week 5 came against the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending NFC champs. And Dart wasn't just managing the game, he was taking control. He completed 17-25 passes for 195 yards and ran for another 58 yards, adding some key first downs with his legs. The Giants won 34-17, and Dart's leadership and poise under pressure became undeniable. 3 games in, and Dart has already shown he could rise to the occasion, leading his team in 2 out of his first 3 starts. It was a huge confidence booster, both for Dart and for the Giants front office. Sure, it's still early in the season, but these are wins the Giants desperately need. And Dart's ability to handle the spotlight was making him stand out. But let's be real, NFL football isn't easy, especially when you're a rookie. Dart's transition was far from smooth sailing. The NFL speed is a whole different level, and complex defenses can confuse even the most talented quarterbacks. While Dart had all the physical tools, the arm, the mobility, and the leadership, he was now faced with the challenge of learning a new system, adjusting to NFL defenses, and keeping his decision-making under control. But here's where Dart's true character started to shine. Unlike many young quarterbacks who struggle under pressure, Dart remained calm. In practice, he continued to improve his footwork, decision-making, and pocket presence. And while he hasn't yet become the polished product that the Giants need him to be, there's no denying his upside. The raw talent was there, but it was clear that Dart still had a lot to learn. His coaches understood this. They knew that patience was going to be the key to unlocking Dart's full potential. So what's next for Dart? Well, the Giants weren't going to rush him into a starting role and risk his development. After all, there's no rush when you're betting on a guy like Dart with so much raw potential. The Giants' plan was clear: let him learn, let him develop, and let him adjust to the NFL at his own pace. In fact, Russell Wilson was the starter for the first 3 weeks, but the Giants had the right plan in place for Dart. They wanted him to sit, learn, and absorb everything he could from the veteran QB around him. And Dart had a lot to prove, but he also had a team that believed in his future. The front office was all in, but they knew it would take time for Dart to fully adjust to the NFL. The key was development. Dart needs to continue improving his play recognition, decision-making under pressure, and his ability to read NFL defenses. Fortunately for him, he had the time and support to do that. The plan wasn't to rush him into the starting role like so many QBs. Instead, the Giants were focused on ensuring that when Dart did take over, he'd be prepared and polished to lead the team to success. As Dart rookie season progresses, the Giants see future potential. While the 2025 season may not end with a playoff appearance, the foundation is being laid. Dart's ability to take over the starting role after just a few games shows the coaching staff trusts in him. His leadership and playmaking ability are all there. He just needs to develop further. Looking ahead to the future, Dart's upside is undeniable. If the Giants continue to develop him, his ceiling could be extremely high. With his dual threat capability and his knack for rising to big moments, Dart has the tools to eventually become the franchise quarterback the Giants have been searching for since Eli Manning. But there's still a lot of work to be done. The Giants know Dart isn't a finished product. He still has to prove he can handle the NFL's complexity, stay composed under pressure, and consistently make the right decisions. But if he continues on the trajectory he set, the NFL future looks bright for both him and the Giants. And here's the thing now, Jaxson Dart's story is still being written. The question on everyone's mind is, will he live up to the hype? Will he develop into the franchise quarterback the Giants need? In the right system, with the right coaching, Dart has all the potential in the world. His ability to stretch the field with his arm, make plays with his legs, makes him a dangerous quarterback. But I'll say it again, there's still a lot of work to be done before Dart can fully realize that potential. Patience will be the key. Dart needs time to adjust, time to learn, and time to grow. If the Giants give him that, there's a real chance that Jaxson Dart could become one of the best quarterbacks in the league in the years to come. But for now, the focus is on development and making sure that Dart continues to improve as he takes over as the full-time starter. But after 3 games of starting, what do you guys think? Jaxson Dart has had 2 really good games and 1 kind of so-so game against the Saints. He's been erratic at times and he's been excellent at times. He's a rookie. It's to be expected. But let me know in the comment section what you think of Jaxson Dart. Do you see him as a franchise quarterback, a fringe starter, a backup, or none of the above? But coming out of Louisville, Lamar Jackson was supposed to be the next big thing. But not everyone saw it that way. In fact, most teams didn't see him as a quarterback at all. Heading into the 2018 NFL Draft, analysts were hyping up names like Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield, and Josh Allen. Lamar was the wild card. The guy with the electric speed and highlight reels that looked more like a video game than real football. But that talent also came with a label, saying he should switch to wide receiver. He's not accurate enough. He can't run an NFL offense. He's more athlete than he is quarterback. But Lamar has found a way to turn all those loud critics very silent. But if you want to know what they are telling you about Lamar Jackson, just click right here.